Hello everybody, my name is Patricia. I am a first generation Beatles fan and our channel here is called A Little Beatles Corner. Today's video is going to be about Beatles photographer Dezo Hoffman. I became pretty interested in his work because I think his photos were probably the first photos American fans really saw on a continual basis, whether it was on the bubblegum cards or magazines or Beatles buttons. I mean, you name it, his stuff was there all around. So I like a lot of Beatles photographers, but as I say, I've gravitated to him quite a bit. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about him and show you the collection that I do have. First, before I get started, a special shout out to Jeffrey in Australia. Thank you, Jeffrey, for watching. Paul George, wherever you're from, that's your handle. I don't really know your real name, but I appreciated your comment. Excuse me. And Belle in London, a first generation Beatles fan. Thank you so much for being from all over the world. It's just great. Now, I'd like to know everybody else's name, and if you want to share some of your stories about how you got involved with the Beatles, that would be wonderful. Oh, actually, I did hear from a 17-year-old person who I don't know where that person is from, who just started collecting Beatles at age 17, which is absolutely wonderful. So thank you to everybody in the community for supporting all this and being part of it. You're just all the best. All right, so Dezo Hoffman. In fact, he was born in 1912 in Hungary, and he studied photojournalism in Prague. He went to work at 20th Century Fox in Paris as a photojournalist, and he was sent to film the 1936 protests against the Olympics related to Hitler over there. He got himself somehow in Spain's Civil War. He was part of being in that, and he had a couple of injuries from that, and the last injury was pretty severe because he lost his memory for quite a while. When he got out of all that, I guess you could say, he started working for different newspapers and magazines, and in 1955 he actually got a job from Record Mirror magazine, which was the impetus of him becoming a more celebrity photojournalist, rock and roll, movie celebrities, and that kind of thing. So he filmed so many people, rock and roll people, Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Dusty Springfield, Cliff Richard, a lot of people. And then he also photographed like Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe, Marlon Brando. So he's got a wide berth of what he was able to do as a photographer. Now, he initially went to Liverpool to photograph the Beatles in 1962 when they were pretty much unknown, and he did develop a relationship with them that lasted quite a few years. Now, my understanding from what I read from Perry Cox was actually 1967 when the Our World satellite thing happened was the last time that there was a photo session that involved Dezo Hoffman and the Beatles. Now, I did read a couple of stories, and I don't know if either of them are true or both of them are true. One was that John Lennon was upset with Dezo for putting a photograph of him in his book that's called John Lennon, which is entirely John Lennon photographs. And then the other story I heard was that John Lennon was mad because he thought that Dezo was really profiting a lot monetarily off the Beatles, via their photographs. So either of those could be true, I don't know. But anyway, apparently, from what I read also, when he did die in 1986, when he was sick, he was having trouble paying his bills. And from what I read, Paul McCartney actually paid his medical bills. So there you go. Oh, all right, Paul. So anyway, so that's Dezo. Now, he did have 2 studios in London, and he worked out of both of those. And he did have a couple of books that has his photos in it. Now, this first one is not one that he put out, but it was an early paperback that American fans got that had his photographs in there. And the photographs are attributed to him in the book. So you can see American fans had access to his photos pretty early on. Now here's another book that he put out called With the Beatles. And it covers, you know, early stuff, and it covers, I don't know, maybe Hard Day's Night, 1965 stuff in this book. And then this one is Beatles Conquer America, where he went with the Beatles on their 1964 tour. And, you know, Ed Sullivan and Washington, D.C., Miami, this was all photographed by him. And as I say, there's another book called John Lennon, and it's specifically John Lennon photos only. And unfortunately, I don't have that one to show you today, but I think I have to get it now to complete my collection. So anyway, that's the photos. Now, when he died in 1986, his widow sold his negatives to the Beatles Apple Corps, so they own the negatives now, and I guess they use them as they want to. For instance, when, you know, the BBC picture here that they put out, that's Dezo Hoffman's photos. Now, there's another group called Silver Cake Gallery that is from Australia, and they were able to purchase 100 negatives from Dezo Hoffman, probably, I guess, before he died or so, and they have put out limited edition lithographs related to those 100 negatives that they have, which I'll get into in a little bit. Now, Rex Features, who actually kind of backed him all along and was part of his showing his photos or associated with his photos, they actually bought 1 million photos that Dezo Hoffman had in his studios at the time he died. And so you'll see some of the back stamps that I do have to show you today also has Rex Features on there, because they did acquire those photographs. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Some photographs I have are framed, some are not framed, but we'll try to go through them as quickly as possible. So this is one of Paul in Miami. I just got this one framed, so I haven't really taken it out of plastic yet. It's got a cute picture of Paul in his bathing suit. And then I have a larger one of John. Now, initially when I started framing these, I did not print the back stamp on all of them. And then as I got wiser, I decided I better do that so somebody could see that was actually a back stamp photo, you know, so I reproduced it on a lot of them, but not everything. It was a learning process, I guess, so that's a nice, kind of a bigger one of John. Now here's one that's probably my favorite because it's a pretty iconic shot. It's the Beatles with Ed Sullivan in New York, 1964. And then there's a back stamp on that. And you can see from the back stamps that some are out of one address that he used and some out of the other address that he used. Now here's one, it's a smaller one of early Beatles in the studio, probably their first recording session. Now I don't have the back stamp on this one to show you, but there is a back stamp on it. Now this one is a little larger, or at least I framed it a little larger. This is John. I don't have the back stamp of that to show you either, as well as this one. I don't have the back stamp to show you, but they're all back stamped. Like I said before, I wised up. I didn't I didn't put the back stamp on the back of them. Here's another one of John. Now I have a couple more that are framed, and then I'll show you the unframed ones. Hang on a minute. So here's another iconic shot. This is the Beatles in their go-karts. And then there's a back stamp that goes with that. And then the final one that I have that's framed, oh, sorry for the noise, is this one, which I kind of like a lot because it's only Ringo under the light and the rest are shadowed, but you know who they are because the Beatles are the Beatles, right? So I really like this one too. And here's the back stamp on this one. So those are all the ones that I have framed. Now I'm going to show you the ones that I don't have framed. And there's quite a few. Now don't ask me why I don't have them framed. I cannot give you a good answer on this. So here's one of Ringo. Now if you look on the back, it's going to say Rex Features. And it's going to say photo by Dezo Hoffman, which, you know, that's not Dezo Hoffman's original back stamp, but Rex Features, you know, acquired this apparently, and of course had to attribute it to him. So this is Dezo Hoffman photo, but it's one that Rex Features acquired. And then I have a second one that's got the same kind of thing. This is, excuse me, the Beatles on the street with the girls. And you can see on the back that it says Rex Photos. And then underneath that, you should be able to see photo by Dezo Hoffman there. So that's an original Dezo Hoffman also. Now here's one of Paul, which is a pretty iconic shot. And then there's the back stamp on that. I hope you can see it through the plastic. Here's a nice one of Brian. I guess Dezo would sell his photographs to different places, so there's different back stamps on them, but there is Dezo's own back stamp from his studio on there also. So that's pretty nice of Brian, I think. Then this is the one I acquired not too long ago, which I did show you in a couple videos ago. This is George. This was the Our World satellite session, and there's the back stamp. So that's the latest one as far as Dezo photographing them that I have. Now this one here is when they did, I think, the Shakespeare thing. And then here's his back stamp there. And I have a small one of them in the studio. It's like the Love Me Do session, I believe. Early. And you can see the back stamp, hopefully. Now I have another nice one of Brian, because he's holding a Beatles album, so it's pretty cool. And then here's the back stamp for that. And here's one that's pretty large. It's another iconic shot. I don't know why the Beatles would agree to dress up like that, but I don't know. They must have been desperate that early on to do anything. And there's the back stamp there. Now the last one I have is pretty big too, kind of an unusual size. And this is John kind of checking himself out in the mirror. I guess they're gonna go out and play a concert or something. So I kind of like this one too because it's kind of unusual. And then if you can see through the covering there, I do have Dezo Hoffman back stamp on that. Now, you might want to know how much these photographs are worth, and to tell you the truth, I'm not entirely sure. You can look on eBay, and people are asking crazy prices. I got a really good deal on the George one I just got. It was like 80 bucks or so. Generally, I would say, you know, depending on the size, the subject matter, whether they're iconic or not, the condition, they're easily probably several $100s a piece, but you know, I can't really pinpoint exactly to tell you, you know, if you want to try to collect them, what the going price is, because it's all over the map. Now, like I told you before, this gallery called Silver K Gallery in Australia were able to acquire 100 negatives to produce lithographs that are limited editions. I have 5 of them. I took 2 of them down because they're pretty big, but I didn't bother taking them all down, sorry. So now behind me, that's one. That's the Beatles at the Cavern Club. And what happened, I think, if I can remember right, is different galleries around the country had shows, and they put out, you know, these flyers that could tell you how much you had to pay for which shot you wanted and what the edition was. And you can see, if you can read that, they were pricey back then, so they're pricier now. I want to say I got them, the ones I'm going to show you, probably, I don't know, early 2000s maybe. And here's another flyer that's similar from another gallery. And it's the same kind of thing, what they had to offer and how much it would be. Now, when you bought one of these, you got a certificate from Silver K Gallery telling you what shot you had and what number it was, and, you know, it was authentic Dezo Hoffman negative and blah, blah, blah. So each one came with one of those. I have 2 of them handy to show you. And so that's the information about that. Now I'm going to show you the 2 that I have handy other than the one behind me. And they're kind of big, so I hope you can see them. So this is the first one. They're nice to hang up on the wall because they're big, you know. That's why I like them, aside from liking Dezo Hoffman's work. I hope you could see that well enough. And then one more I'm going to show you, if I can get to it. Oh, sorry about that. Here's the other one I'm going to show you. Yeah. I was going to say, I hope it's not upside down. So I do have one of John Lennon that is up on the wall in another part of my house, and I have another one of the Beatles in Sefton Park, you know, with their jumping around poses. So that's the 5 of those that I have. So anyway, that's my collection at this point in my life. I hope you enjoyed what you did see, and keep the comments coming. Criticisms are fine. And I'll see you next time, and long live the Beatles.